Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar news update video. This is going to be my initial thoughts, reactions to the San Diego Comic-Con 2015 Avatar and Korra Dark Horse panel that literally just happened about half an hour ago. So excuse me if, by the time you see this video, watch in a few days time, some of the information is a little bit outdated. I have literally just had food after covering the panel for the whole time it was on, live kind of updating posts for the site. So there you that's the kind of update there. So I'm going to basically go through it and give you my reaction as I was kind of live blogging it for the panel. So I was getting the information more or less, 2 or 3 minutes delayed from the people at the convention. And basically, the way it started out was just that, okay, they come in, they answer a few questions about initial reactions to book 4. I'm just like, oh, okay, we already know how Mike and Brian feel about the reactions to the end of book 4. They've said everything they need to say. Nothing to talk about here. I'm just like, okay, so cool. That's the kind of book 4 story section of the panel out of the way in like 2-3 minutes. Great. Then they go into talk about the comics, Smoke and Shadows. They bring that up. The people covering it didn't seem to know the comics very well, but from the little details I got, they just covered some stuff about Smoke and Shadow Part 1, mentioning when it's coming out. Cool, they got that out of the way in just a couple of minutes. I think we're not even 10 minutes into the panel, and we've already got 2 of the things I expected them to cover out of the way. So that's fine. The problem came after that when they get into the book 4 art book. It was cool because they brought it up, they showed the cover, which was the kind of one other piece of news other than the big stuff that I'm going to talk about in a minute. You can see the cover for the book 4 art book here. So it's a pretty cool cover, but it's not an original piece of art. This is the book 4 balance DVD/Blu-ray poster that came free when you bought a copy of the Blu-ray or DVD, and it's just that image of Korra basically overlaid over like a stock background of the spirit portal. That's what the cover is. I think overall it works, but it is not an exclusive piece of art for the cover. And then they just went on and on and on and on about the book 4 art book for ages. They kind of used it as like a book 4 panel. Like if they'd said this stuff to us at the before book 4 came out, it would have been a really cool preview for book 4. But coming 7 months, 8 months nearly after the end of Korra, it was just, for me, covering this at home, very just like, okay, ignore this. Because they just went through some of the pages of the book, like you're kind of spoiling the cool reveals of what art is going to be in this book for when it comes out. It's out in September. So they just spent way too long on this. And then after that, they went into fan questions. And at this point, I was incredibly worried. I was really disappointed with the panel up to now. The only piece of news that we'd gotten was the cover for the art book. And I was just like, question time basically means the end of the panel. They're just going to do questions for the next 20 minutes and it's going to be over. And the thing with the questions is they did it the same way they did like the last 2 or 3 panels, where instead of people getting up from the audience and asking questions directly to Mike and Brian, what they had was that in the week leading up to the panel, Dark Horse on Twitter and stuff like that, Coronation and so on, were asking fans to submit questions via Twitter, via email and stuff like that. So they chose the questions, and they were all really, like softball questions. Just like, oh, what are your reactions to this? Little bits of information came out of it, like the reason Sokka was not a focus at all really over the course of Korra was just because his story never just really fully aligned for them with regards to anything that was going on in Korra time. So there was that, and then none of the other questions were really all that interesting until towards the end of this, and we're really running out of time at the panel now. Like, they have a full hour, and at this stage I think we're at like 45 minutes into the panel, and then they get to the question, what are your plans for the comics going forward? And they're just like, well, yeah, we're probably going to do 1 comic a year, that's the plan. And then they said, anything, and then the last question was, anything further planned for Korra? And they're just kind of like, well, and then they show this image on the screen, and it's this, basically what it turned out to be was this kind of GIF that starts off with just a blank image of the spirit portal, and then as the GIF progresses, you see Korra and Asami kind of walk out, kind of like arms around each other, you know, like walking out after, basically after their kind of spirit portal journey. And the Dark Horse image comes up on screen, written by Mike DiMartino. They announced Korra Comics like right at the end. They did the classic panel announcement thing of one more thing, and it was what we were looking forward to. And we got the big announcement: Korra Comics are coming. No release date, no artist, but what we do know is that it's going to be a 3-part comic series. I think it's basically going to be in the same style of the Avatar comics, and that it's going to be three 72 pages of story books that together form an overall comic series. This one specifically is going to focus on the immediate aftermath of book 4 Balance, and also focus more on Korra and Asami's relationship. The cover, this is just a kind of concept image for the thing. It doesn't really represent what the cover is going to be, but I assume the cover would actually be primarily Korra and Asami for this book. They seem to be making that a very clear point, that seeing their relationship is going to be one of the highlights of this book, plus the stuff that was set up in the story at the end of book 4 for where things are going. And yeah, so Mike is going to be the writer for the comic. He's basically going to be the yin yang of this comic series. Brian is also going to assist on the story, and also a little bit on the art direction once they actually get the artist that they want to do this comic series on board, which I think is very telling as to how far along this book is in production. I really get the sense that this was a very recent announcement. The fact that they don't have an artist on board. Brian did the piece of art that we see here. That's actually the reveal of this, but he won't be the actual artist on board in this comic, I don't think. So that's going to be very interesting. I don't know what that says about, you know, like Team Gurihuru. Are they going to be still working on Smoke and Shadow at the time? Or are they kind of done with Avatar once that's over and they're getting a new team on board for this? Because they didn't make any mention during the whole panel about where the Avatar comics are going after this. Other than one little comment from Brian during the panel where he said, like, in just response to, you know, like, what's next for the Avatar comics, it's just kind of like, you know, we only really want to do an Avatar comics if there's still a story to tell. We don't want to just kind of continue it just for the sake of continuing it. So I don't really know what that says about the comics going forward, or like Jin Yang wasn't at the panel, so we don't know if he's going to continue on board or what. The same with Team Gurihuru, so I don't know what the artist situation is going to be, but this book definitely, at least the first part of it's not coming out for, I'd at the very least say another year, because we don't yet have the release date for Smoke and Shadow Part 3, but I would estimate it's going to be around March, April 2016 when that series comes to an end. And usually they take a 5-month break between series. So I assume it would be kind of mid to late 2016 by the time this first core comic comes out. So it's going to be a lot of waiting, but we will get more information on this as time goes forward. They'll probably have to announce the artist on this over the next couple of months, just so they can be aware of what they're doing and get obviously everything into place and organize this. But overall, I'm pleased with this as the kind of main announcement from this panel. It gives us a clear idea of kind of what the future of Avatar is, which is a big thing I wanted addressed at this panel, just to know that we have something to look forward to in the future. I don't think it was the perfect kind of like future of Avatar reveal that I wanted, in that it still looks like it's just one Avatar comic series a year, and we're still going to have basically the same waiting cycle as we do now, like 4 months between this book, 4 months between that book, new series, we have to wait 5 months for that, and so on. So, you know, I'm pleased. I'm really excited for what the potential for these Korra comics can actually be, because one, just addressing the Korra-Sami relationship, which I think a lot of people validly, of course, have an issue with, just in the sense of like, this just happened at the very end of the series and you're making a really big deal about it. Can we kind of get a second to just address like where exactly this developed from specifically? And And I think these comics are basically suggesting that realistically, when they kind of catch up with everyone in the comics, it's probably going to be a little bit of a surprise to nearly most of the characters in universe that Korra and Asami are suddenly a couple. I think they'll characters will obviously say they kind of saw the little hints and stuff like that, just like the audience has. We saw hints, but that it was never like crazy obvious that this was going to happen. So I think it's going to be really good for a lot of people who just maybe don't really buy into their relationship a lot. I personally like the couple, but want to see more of their development, because for me, in terms of the way I like shipping more in the sense of that I actually want characters to get together and see what they're like as a couple, rather than what a lot of animated shows tend to do, which is focus a lot on them before they get together, and then the finale is kind of like they get together and then you don't see any of where they go from there. Whereas I think the strength and what people actually want in shipping is just see these characters in a stable relationship and what they kind of bring to each other. And with Korra and Asami, we saw a little bit of that as friends, but it'll be very interesting to see what they're like in a kind of actual romantic relationship going forward. Plus, I suppose the obvious thing to do next is address the spirit situation. I think that's the obvious kind of plot point from the end of the finale. Address, like, why didn't the spirits help during Kavira's invasion? What's up with the spirits' relationship with humans right now? Korra's definitely going to have to address that. She herself doesn't have the best relationship with the spirits, whereas Juan did, and that's the kind of one thing that she kind of really still needs. So you can do something, I suppose, with bringing Janora into the story there. Korra and Asami could help with that. Maybe Asami actually gets on very well with the spirits during this spirit journey. That's her first time in there. That could be a pretty interesting reveal. I assume Raiko and stuff like that, those sort of characters will be involved just with regards to, hey Korra, why did you create a spirit portal in Republic City? And maybe there's some reaction to that. But like stuff like Bolin, Mako especially, like where are they going to go with the other characters in this series? So I'm very excited for Korra Comics and what they could potentially be now that we know. Okay, it's not a time skip; it's just set kind of like very soon after the end of book 4. Very pleased with that, but obviously these are just my very initial reactions. So overall, the panel I felt was, I suppose judging it as a whole, was okay. Like, it was completely saved from being a very bad panel by the Korra reveal, which they kept until the end. But apart from the book 4 balance art book cover reveal, there was really nothing else of note in the panel. Obviously, as I said, more information, more detailed coverage of the panel will come out like tomorrow and stuff like that. We'll get the full details of basically everything that was said if we missed out on any kind of specific lines said by either Mike or Brian. But in terms of the big reveals, they're all out right now, and the Korra Comics is the main one and the only one. But even that has a slight negative to it in that it's super early in production. We're going to be waiting a long time for this. Like, it's like around the time where the first one of these books come out, probably Mike's first Genius book will be coming out, and we'll be hearing a lot more information about Brian's Thread World. So I think they knew that they had to announce something here, and so came up with the Korra comic idea in the months leading up to the convention. It doesn't seem like a massive amount of time went into the development of these comics already, just that they maybe have a basic story idea, but the fact that they don't have an artist on board is definitely the really telling fact about this whole reveal. So that's basically everything I wanted to say. Of course there's still the issues around like the Lin figure isn't readily available and stuff like that. Nosewire Industries announcement at the panel, didn't expect them to, but nothing was said. Nothing was said about the Korra statue at the Dark Horse panel either. But yeah, I'll probably do another news video tomorrow, and of course the podcast on Sunday will cover all of the news that comes out of the panel. You'll get my thoughts, more of my thoughts on the panel, and the whole overall San Diego Comic-Con reveal, plus the other hosts that are on the panel, Kelly, Greg, and Troy will hopefully all be on the podcast on Sunday. But yeah, expect more coverage tomorrow. Other than that, that's been my initial reactions to the Comic-Con panel. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were. Thanks for watching this video, and bye.